Hey MacU family, this is Adam Rowe once again, and I'm coming to you today to have a speech that is a tribute speech. So I'm going to be giving a tribute to Martin Luther, the Protestant reformer who is well known for starting this great thing we know as the Protestant movement. And really, I've done a lot of research to look into what he's done, and I'm hoping to share with you why he is worthy of a tribute. Because Martin Luther stood up for what he believed was an injustice and misinterpretation of faith, and it changed how we view faith even today. So to start, I want to talk about who is Martin Luther. Well, he was a German who was born in 1483. And he started off in his young days studying law. His father wanted him to study law, and that was really important to him. But only 6 weeks into studying his law degree, he decided to drop out of school and go and join a monastery. And the funny thing is, this was actually due to the reason to do with this was because he actually encountered a storm that was so terrifying for him that he got down on his hands and knees and prayed, Lord, if I am to live through the night, I will join a monastery and serve you. So that's actually why Martin Luther became a monk. And by 1512, he had actually gotten his doctorate of biblical studies. So he was a very well-educated man. So what was the context of the time that Martin Luther lived in? Well, according to HistoryLearning.com, the Catholic Church had pretty much all the religious and political power at the time. They had the capabilities of really saying who was going to do what and had control over everything. And part of this power, the church had the capabilities of excommunicating you, which didn't just have the political and religious aspect, but even had a spiritual aspect. Because one of the practices of the church at the time was something called indulgences. And essentially, for a payment of financial money, whether that was gold or goods, you could purchase a forgiveness of your sins, or even the forgiveness of sins of someone that has already passed away. And this was called indulgences, and you could buy these. Well, at the time, Martin Luther was not very happy knowing that they were selling these indulgences. Through his studies of his doctorate studies, he found out that that really wasn't biblical. And in 1517, he wrote what is now known as the 95 Thesis. And it was 95 reasons why the Catholic Church was not aligning with biblical beliefs. And he had some arguments with it. Now, according to the Encyclopedia Britannica, though, this thesis at the time was actually fairly subservient to the Catholic Church. When it was first written, it really had some disagreements, but it wasn't like an all-out opposition to the Catholic Church. However, by the fall of 1518, he had come to a different viewpoint on faith, kind of in general, from the Catholic Church, and this made a big difference. And this was the start of what we know now as the Reformation movement. So what do we see as effects today? Well, according to the Pew Research, around 40% of Americans identify as, about 40% of Americans identify as a member of the Protestant movement. Not just of American Christians, but of Americans in total. And not only is it, if you were a Protestant, this has benefits to you, but even the Catholics have benefit from Martin Luther and his actions. According to HistoryExtra.com, the Reformation movement was a big reason the Catholic Church stopped selling indulgences, and now we don't see them selling indulgences today. So even the Catholic Church had this great benefit. So, in summary, Martin Luther was a dedicated man who decided to join a monastery and follow God. And he served God with all of his heart and stood up for what he believed. And because of his actions, we see the church looking very different today. Thank you.